Continuing on with the UVing of our character, we'll start now with the head. So we want to pay a lot of attention to the head since this is one of the main parts of our character, but we'll do it pretty much the same way as we always do. So applying the planar map, laying it out with the quick peel, and then we'll go through and make sure that the texel density is as even as possible. We also need to make sure that there are no overlapping UVs, particularly in the eye area and in the mouth. So these areas, when we quick peel, tend to try and overlap each other. We'll also separate out the ears from the head and only work on one ear. So like with the eye and the arm, we'll mirror the ear over again, and so that it shares the same space on our texture map. So I've already gone ahead and removed the ears, like detached the ears from the head and deleted one of them. As before, we want to hide the seams as much as necessary, so I've just cut one seam down the back of the neck. I'll also probably put another one around the jawline. This is to prevent the stretching from underneath the chin. You can of course just keep it with the one seam at the back of the neck, since the under the chin won't be seen as much. So I'm just now applying that seam to underneath the neckline there. Okay, so now I'll go in and make sure that there are no overlapping areas around the eye. So just here you can see how they've tried to overlap each other as it was quick peeled out. So we just want to make sure that we pull all of these in so that they're not resting so close together, and allow give us a little bit more room when we're texturing. I'll do the same with the mouth as well. The face is a really tricky part to get right, so there will be parts around, it's particularly around the neck, where we can't get the texel density exactly the same across the face. There will be a little bit of stretching, a little bit of pulling. As long as we keep this as much to the minimum as possible, we'll be able to get away with it, since the neck is not an area that we'll focus on when playing. Nobody plays a game and say, oh look, there's the neck. So yeah, just do your best and get as much of the grid, especially on the main part of the face, as even as possible. Once we're happy with that, we can move on to the inner mouth. So just the same as before, pelt map, quick peel and planar projection. With that done, we can map our ear. So again, just a planar map and defining the seam. So in this case, we want to go around the back of the ear, so we want to hide this as much as we can, as always. Okay, now we've finished the head, we can clone our ear and mirror it and weld it back onto back onto the head in place. We can do the same thing for the arm as well. With our head done and complete, we can move on to the hair. So we'll start with the base mesh for both the main head and the ponytail, and we'll do these sections the same as always. So using a planar projection map, and then defining our seam and using the quick peel. Again, trying to hide the seams as much as possible. So on the main mesh of the head, so the scalp mesh, we'll put the seam down the back underneath the ponytail, and with the ponytail we'll put it again on the underside and around the edges, the under edges, so where the tips of the hair would be. We can now do the same for our hair tie. Okay, so now that that's done, we can move on to unwrapping the strips of our hair. So this one's going to be quite a time-consuming process, so we're going to do it a little bit differently too. So instead of using the plain projection, we're going to select the loop, the edge loop that we want to use as the seam, and then we're going to select the unfold strip from loop button. So this button that looks like a little ribbon. So I'm going to do that for each strip of the hair. Now that that's complete, I'm going to select all of the strips and I'm going to scale it down. It's just to make it a bit easier to work with. So making sure that it's all scaled down so that they'll be all the same size, and trying to get it in a smaller space in the viewport, just so it's easier for us to work with. With that done, I'm going to focus in on one strip, and we're going to start to organize these a little bit better. So I'm going to try and I'll select the back side. So what will end up happening is we'll get the front and the back to share the same UV space. So I'm selecting the back and I'm splitting, breaking that away. I'm then going to make sure that each part of this strip is aligned correctly. So these parts are aligned with the back, with the front, so I'm going to bring those down and weld those into position. So you can see this skinny little rectangle in the viewport is the top of our plane. So I know that that's where the front ends. So I'll bring the rectangle that's attached to that to the back, and I'll weld these together, or stitch these together I should say. Now you can see that they've been flipped, so I'm mirroring that, so selecting it and then just hitting the mirror button at the top so that the UVs align properly. And again with this one needs to be flipped horizontally as well as vertically. So I know that because when I select an edge, its corresponding edge is highlighted in blue on the UV that needs to be welded. So the red one is the one that we've selected, and the blue one is the one that we're going to attach it to. So I'm just trying to figure out what's the orientation of this one. So there we go. So now that I've got it right, I can weld it back into place. Stitch it back into place. So now we've got the front and the back on that strip. They're both separate. So I'll move. I need to weld this bit here, sorry. So stitch that together. I'll grab that element, mirror it, and then lay it on top of the front section. Okay, so I mirrored that so that they would match up with the front. Okay, I'll then do that for each strip. So this is obviously going to take quite a long time, so I'll speed this process up. Okay, I'll continue to lay out these hair strips and make sure that they're all laid out on top of each other, front to back, and we can continue on in the next video by packing our UVs together ready for texturing.